Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. So I've been getting a lot of questions from non-Iowa Hawkeye fans and Hawkeye fans alike on my thoughts regarding Keegan Murray, the most recent Iowa Hawkeye phenom under Fran McCaffrey, of course. So I'm going to be giving my assessment of his game, where I think he should go, both as an Iowa fan and just as a basketball fan. Former decently level high, basketball player myself. But mainly from an Iowa Hawkeye perspective, where he should go and what people should be expecting if their team selects him in this upcoming draft. So again, I've said this jokingly to my fellow Hawk fans. The past couple of years, I have been spot on predicting the Iowa Hawkeyes record. Will they make the NCAA tournament or not? Things like that, because I am far more knowledgeable on hoops than I am with football and things like that. So I feel pretty confident in my assessment that I'm going to be giving you guys on Keegan Murray. In the first place, I think we should start is how Keegan Murray ended up at Iowa and how he went under the radar so much. I mean, really, he flew under the radar. And quite frankly, even amongst Hawkeye fans, when we landed him, it was not some resounding, oh my gosh, we got to steal. How did we end up with him? It was not that at all. Now, it started to become that after his first year on campus and, of course, how he played early on. But even the point is, even us Iowa Hawkeye fans, we're not totally under the assumption that we got some massive steal. Now, the story of Keegan Murray, he grew up in Cedar Rapids. His father is a former Iowa Hawkeye player himself, one of his father was a part of some amazing Iowa Hawkeye basketball squads. So Keegan Murray definitely has that bloodline, and it does matter. It matters because for many reasons, but number one, it matters because Keegan Murray has somebody that he can turn to that is very close to him for guidance, for assistance, and just for overall basketball knowledge. It matters as far as his basketball game, his life outside of basketball, all of that. Keegan Murray comes from a very good family, very good household, and I think all of those things matter when assessing a player. Now, ultimately, when you assess a player, then the top thing you look at is their skill on the court. But nonetheless, his father, Keegan Murray, played for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Keegan Murray grew up in Cedar Rapids, and he did okay in high school. He was still a little bit undersized. The Iowa coaching staff was aware of him, but he was nowhere near at the level that he is currently at. Fast forward. So anyways, he then decides to go to a prep school. I'm going to have to pull that up real quick. He went to Dme Academy in Daytona Beach, where he went for a prep school year. And I'm a big fan of this for both football and basketball. Now, in some cases, it costs a lot of money for athletes to do this. Now, in other cases, they are such a promising prospect that the school will provide them with a scholarship or something like that for them to attend the school, and money is not necessarily a problem. But in general, I am a big believer in the prep year because you don't use up your college eligibility. You get another year to, it's not a high school year, but it's not a college year. But what it is a year where you can fine tune your skills, fine tune your man body, and get ready for the next step. And that's what Keegan Murray did. And even then, he was still underlooked. He sprouted up. He grew to be 6'8", obviously, as we can see here on his 247 Sports profile. And, his grade by 247 Sports is not terrible. It's not terrible. An 89 is definitely a Division I prospect. Is the 89 lower than what he became at Iowa? Sure. But, it's not as though 247 Sports had him unranked like John Morant or something like that. But it doesn't even matter. He was underranked regardless. And he was still being looked over. The only other offer that came for Keegan Murray was Western Illinois. And I actually believe that his brother may have been ranked higher than Keegan was. We'll have to take a look here. Let's see. I was right. His brother Chris was considered one spot better than Keegan. His brother Chris was 59th in his positional ranking, and Keegan was 60th in his positional ranking. No matter how you slice it, these guys were overlooked. Keegan Murray only having 2 offers coming out of his prep year was absolutely criminal. Now, I can't remember if COVID had just started or if it hadn't. I can't remember that aspect of the story. I don't think it had quite started during his recruitment, so I don't believe that can be used as an excuse to why he was overlooked. But nonetheless, he was overlooked. And Keegan Murray got to Iowa. And if you don't know much about Iowa, they are coached by Fran McCaffrey, who is a very excellent coach when it comes to offense. Players love playing for him offensively. It's a very free-flowing offensive style, positionless type of motion offense. And Iowa has been a top 10 scoring offense and offensive efficiency offense for the past 3 seasons. So they dominate on the offensive end. Keegan Murray came into a squad that was a top 10 team. I believe Iowa was even actually a top 5 team with Luka Garza, who ended up being the National Player of the Year. Jordan Bohannon was on the team, obviously. Joe Wieskamp was on the team. And he is now in the NBA with the San Antonio Spurs. And that is why Keegan didn't start, is because, well, the Joe Wieskamp was already on the team and was already a very well-established player on the team. Now, you can make the case, well, still, why wouldn't you start Keegan, Luka, and Joe at the 3, the 4, and the 5? I got it. I totally understand. And perhaps that could have been the case. But nonetheless, Keegan Murray came off the bench as a 6th man, and he killed it. He absolutely killed it. He showed all kinds of flashes of what he could become. And the thing that was best about his first season at Iowa and the things that he showed to the public eye was he worked hard. He worked very hard. You would always see hustle plays, and just playing his tail off. And that's important when it comes to looking at Keegan Murray as an NBA prospect, because those are one of those intangible things that you can control, how hard you play, that will translate to the NBA regardless. How hard you play will definitely translate to the NBA regardless. So that's one definite positive of Keegan Murray. We also saw flashes of his athleticism, of his length. As you guys saw here in his draft profile, he is 6'8" with a wingspan of 6'11". He's 225 pounds. And you guys can see all the other stuff there. And so that year ended. I'm going to pull up his stats here. You know what? Before I pull up the stats for both of his seasons, in order to continue this story, I do want to read these draft notes on him to tell you if I agree or not. Keegan Murray is a very efficient player who projects as a high-end role player, floor spacer, and do everything forward at the next level. I would say Keegan is capable of becoming an NBA superstar. I really do believe that. Ultimately, it's a very small percentage of anyone who does that, regardless of draft year, whatever. But Keegan Murray has all of the necessary tools to become an NBA superstar. He has the height, he has the length, he has the athleticism, and quite frankly, he has the skill, he has the tool bag as a 6'8" forward. This is another very, very, very important thing to note for whoever might take Keegan Murray. And I think that this may even be the most important thing when it comes to Keegan Murray. With the story that I told you guys about him and his brother playing in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, they were about 6'3", 6'4" guards. They played the guard position. It was a position that they played virtually their whole life, kind of like Anthony Davis, kind of like I'm blanking on his name, the dude who plays on John Morant's team. I think it's Kyle Anthony or something like that. A very tall dude. Kyle Anthony, I actually got to see him play at an AAU tournament in Portland, Oregon. And the way that he plays in the NBA now is exactly how he played even back then. But anyways, Keegan was a point guard, shooting guard type guy, a ball handling guard from the day he picked up a basketball. And now that he's 6'8", he now possesses those guard skills that he had back then. Now, was he an elite level guard? No, he was not. But nonetheless, he still does have those guard skills that he possessed from way back before he had his growth spurt to becoming 6'8". And I think that that is very important to note. Let's keep reading this. He doesn't need the ball in his hands much to be effective, and he makes the most of his shots. True. I agree. He does not need the ball to be effective. He's a good cutter. He can score within the natural flow of the offense. He can score on the fast break. He is not a guy that needs to have the whole offense revolve around him in order to score. Matter of fact, Iowa did that very little for him because they didn't need to do it. He could go and get his 20 a night by just existing and playing naturally within the confines of the Iowa Hawkeye offense. The most of his shots hitting a very high percentage from the floor, from the free throw line, and from three. He's having a breakout sophomore season for the Hawkeyes after a very good freshman campaign, becoming a star in the Big Ten. I think he's the best player coming out of the Big Ten this year. Murray is a versatile defender who shows a lot of smarts and awareness on that end of the floor. He plays with great positioning and solid fundamentals and has enough mobility to step out and guard in space. Again, it goes back to him being a guard for much of his basketball career. And I would say that that's 100% true. He is a good defender. And I would say Keegan Murray can guard at a pretty high level, positions. He can guard point guards, maybe not at a high level in the NBA, but I would say he definitely will be able to guard positions 2, 3, and 4 at maybe even 5 in the NBA at a high level due to his athleticism and length. He's not a great, let's see here, step out and guard in space. He's also a committed rebounder who works hard on the glass. True. He's not a great rim protector, but that won't be his role at the next level. No, it won't. But he can block shots. He can. Okay. Don't think that he is not able to do that. Murray is a smooth athlete for a 6'8" plus player with easy movement skills. He's got plenty of length with a reported 6'11" wingspan and has all the size and physical tools to be a big time NBA player. Agreed. I agree. He absolutely can become a staple for any one of these NBA franchises. The comps that they have are Obi Toppin, taller Otto Porter. I can see that. Pascal Siakam. I like Obi Toppin and I like Pascal Siakam. I'll give you guys my comps at the end of this video, but I will say that those two comps are not terrible in and of themselves, especially Pascal Siakam. So here are his stats. By the way, sorry guys that the video portion, I don't know why it went out, but nonetheless, it's back on. Let's just get right back into this. But apologies. In the 2021 season, with a loaded Iowa Hawkeye roster, and quite frankly, looking back at it, Fran probably could have done even more with that roster. That Iowa team legitimately had 3 NBA level players, 2 NBA role players. We'll see what becomes of Joe Wieskamp and Luka Garza. I think that they have shown that at the very least they can compete at the NBA level, which I knew they both would be able to, and a high level NBA player. So you could easily make the case that Iowa should have, at the very least, made a Sweet 16. They still did have a phenomenal season. They spent much of the season top 10 in the Big Ten, top 10 in the country. They spent much of this, or they finished the Big Ten season in the top 5 in the Big Ten in standings. And again, top 10 nationally. But again, it's all about the NCAA tournament, and they could have gone a lot further. They ended up losing to Oregon, and Peyton Pritchard's Oregon with Manute Bull's son as well. So here are the stats. In 2021, we can see that Keegan Murray played about 18 minutes a night. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. 18 minutes a night. And again, a big reason for that is because, Iowa was pretty much set at the small forward position. Joe Wieskamp had that locked down. I think, and also Patrick McCaffrey was another small forward / power forward that Iowa could utilize. And it is easy to look back in hindsight and say, you should have played Keegan Murray more. It's really easy to do that. But it's much harder in real time to be able to decide, okay, this guy is going to become this, therefore he needs to get more playing time now. It's so hard to do that. But it does seem almost criminal that he only played 18 minutes a night in 2021. As you guys can see here, averaging 7.2 points per game when only playing 18 minutes is pretty dang good. Pretty good. Let's see what else. He averaged 1.3 blocks per game, 0.5 assists per game, 5.1 rebounds per game, and he shot 75.5% from the free throw line, and he shot 29.6% from 3. His field goal percentage was 50.6%. All right, let's go to 21-22, the next season. He improved his field goal percentage by 5%, 55.4%. He improved his three-point shooting, jumping all the way to almost 40% shooting the three. And I'll say this. Well, when we watch some of his tape, I'll get into his shooting. He did drop a little bit on his free throw shooting, but I would say that him being about a 75% free throw shooter is evidence that he has good form and that he is a capable shooter. Because in my opinion, guys who are not legit shooters can't shoot free throws. That's why you see guys like LeBron James who, they're not awful shooters, and they're very streaky. And it plays out in their free throw percentage because, well, they're just not great shooters. And as you guys can see here, Keegan Murray is obviously a decent free throw shooter. I think he can improve it. I think he could easily get up to 80%, no problem. So that will be something to monitor. He averaged 8.7 boards a game, 1.5 assists, 1.9 blocks, 1.3 steals. So literally in almost every statistical category, Keegan Murray improved from year 1 to year too. I think that is very impressive. And I mean, folks, you got to understand, as Iowa fans, we were totally expecting. I'll put it to you this way: the pressure on Keegan Murray was quite high because everything that we had been hearing about Keegan was just so high level that the expectations began to rise. Now, I would be lying if I said even I expected him to have the type of season that he ended up having, averaging 23.5 points a night. In my season preview for the Iowa Hawkeyes, I said if he could average 18 points a night, 17, 18 points a night, that would be fantastic. And he even outdid that, averaging 23.5 points a night. All right, guys, let's watch some highlights here. And I'm going to give you guys my take on his game, just in general, and just my thoughts on Keegan, again, in general here. I found this video, guys, of Patrick McCaffrey and the Murray twins facing off. And this was from high school. This is not from the prep year. Look at how much smaller they are. And this is what I mean with the major growth spurt that both of them ended up having between their prep year and going to college. Look at this. So again, they were forced to play guard and possess guard skills. Were they elite level guards? Let's, hypothetically, if they had stayed at this height, would they have been good enough to play at Iowa? Probably not. But their guard skills were good enough that even if they didn't grow to be 6'8", I think they would have been good enough to either walk on at a Division I school or play for a mid-major Division I school on scholarship. So, here is the video, that the highlights that I'm going to use. Hopefully I don't get copyright struck here. I'm not going to play any sound in the background. I'm just going to give my analysis, play some short clips, show what he's capable of, give you guys my comps, who I would compare him to, where I think he will go or should go, and ultimately what I think Keegan Murray will be in the NBA. Let's get into this. Here we go. Man, I'm going to miss Joe Toussaint, by the way. Feisty defender. So here in this, you guys can see, that Keegan is very active defensively. He got right down the floor, which is what a small forward should do. An athletic small forward should be running the floor no matter what. He immediately gets to his spot, which is part of the Iowa offensive way. Early O, pushing the pace, getting up and down. Let's see how he finishes this. Just a very smooth finish. That play shows his versatility, his athleticism. He got him down into the paint, got him on his back, worked him down to the spot where he wanted him, and finished smoothly. Very, very smoothly. Pick and pop. And I'm glad they showed that video next, because I showed you guys that Keegan Murray shot 39% in his second year at Iowa. He shot, I can't remember what it was. It was below 30% his first year at Iowa. But as you guys can see, his form is phenomenal. There's nothing herky-jerky about his form. It's very smooth. It's compact. There's no wasted motion. He gets it. He goes right up with it with no wasted motion, which is what you look for with good shooters, is zero wasted motion. Steph Curry, when he gets it, wherever he gets it, he's going right up with it in one single motion and just letting it fly. Boom, boom. He's gotten so many reps shooting the basketball that the muscle memory is just, it's so smooth, one motion, no wasted goofiness to the shot. Keegan Murray will have no problems getting his shot off in the NBA. It's not slow. It's not, there's zero wasted motion. And I think he can actually improve on his shooting even more than what we have seen. I think Keegan Murray realistically can become a 40 to 43% three-point shooter in the NBA. I really do believe that. It's him going around here. He takes the contact on that shot, gets a bucket. Good finish by Keegan Murray. Here's him running the floor again. See, and that's what I like about Keegan Murray. We just saw 2 plays back-to-back where he finished with contact. Excuse me. And in the NBA, especially in the playoffs, you have to be able to finish with contact. I mean, you know, for as much as people complain about how the NBA is not like how it used to be, every playoff game that I have watched this past year, it's uber physical. You know, the only difference between the modern NBA and the past NBA is that there's no fists being thrown, but there's no fighting. But as far as physicality goes, I think it would be ridiculous to think that the modern NBA is not physical. I mean, the refs in this past year's playoff has just let the guys play, and you have to be able to finish with contact. Keegan Murray doesn't complain. He doesn't whine if he doesn't get a call. And I think that all of those things are good examples of the type of guy he is and the type of player he is. See, look at that. Look at that form. It's just perfect. It really, really is. It truly is. Splash. Just no wasted motion at all. Now, I'm going to interject here because I don't want to play too much of the highlights and just get to the crunch of this video. Keegan Murray, in my opinion, you could make a case that he is the top player coming out of this draft. The one negative that Keegan Murray has is that he is older for his age, meaning he is a true sophomore in college. He left Iowa as a true sophomore in college. However, because of his prep year at Dme Academy, he is actually more like a true junior. It is almost as though he is leaving Iowa as a true junior. Now, to me, that only matters if you don't believe that there's no room for Keegan Murray to improve. If you look at Keegan Murray and you believe that he still has a high ceiling to hit with his game, then his age doesn't really matter. And in my opinion, as a guy who watched nearly all of Keegan Murray's games, I would say that and if you go back to the story that I told you guys, well, Keegan Murray's story, I would say that he very much still has, he hasn't even come close to hitting his ceiling. And his ceiling, in my opinion, is just as high as any of the top end prospects in this draft, if not more so, because the guy has only been playing basketball as a 6'8" individual for 2-3 years now. It's not as though Keegan Murray has been 6'8" his whole life, and then, you know, out of nowhere he becomes some great basketball player. And, you know, no. He grew to be 6'8", and now he is reaping some of the rewards of the combination of his skills from before he was 6'8" and some of the benefits of being 6'8". But again, he's only been 6'8" for a few years, meaning, in my opinion, he very much still has a high ceiling left to get to. And I think I really do. And I think some people might think I'm crazy for this. I think his ceiling may even be higher than any of these guys in this draft, because he still has so much development. It's hard to articulate, but because I know his story so well, I know that he still has a lot of improvement to make. Because I know his story, I know that we are just seeing the beginning stages of what he is capable of becoming. And I'm not saying that to blow smoke or anything like that. It really is the case. I mean, this guy, was, as I said, 6'3" guard. Now he's 6'8". Now he's learning how to play as a 6'8" guy. And there were interviews from his Iowa teammates where they would talk about him, learning how high he could jump. How they would be at practice and they would basically say, sometimes Keegan Murray would be so high and he'd lay it up and we'd have to tell him, dude, you're so high up. You should have dunked that. You should have dunked it. And that is an example of Keegan still not even hitting his fullness as a 6'8" individual basketball player. I remember hearing comments from the Iowa players just in general stating that it was awesome to see him start to realize just how athletic he was, just how tall he was, just how long he is. So those are the things that are coming into my mind when I am providing my analysis and what you will potentially be getting as an NBA franchise with Keegan Murray. I'm going to put some pictures up. I'm also still going to play some highlights, but again, this is mostly just my analysis. So I think he still has a lot of room to improve, and his ceiling is still high. That was me basically pushing back against the only negative with Keegan in general, which would be his age. And to me, it's irrelevant because age only matters when it comes to development. And Keegan still has so much development left in his body, in his game, and all of that. Moving on here, because I don't want to stay on that for too long. If you don't understand what I'm saying there, it is what it is. Keegan Murray, if we look at his game, one of the positives with him is he is a well-rounded, polished player. And it is totally true. He can shoot mid-range, the three-point shot. There's highlights of him catching it, 10 to 15 feet, which is, we started to see that go away in the NBA game, but we're starting to see that coming back because it is important to be able to knock down a 10 to 15 foot jumper when it's so hard to get a bucket in the NBA playoffs. Okay. And Keegan can do that. I think he still has tons of room for improvement with his shooting in general, but everything is all there. The fundamentals, his form, he's got a quick release. There's no wasted motion, yada, yada, yada. He runs the floor. We saw some highlights of his ability to run the floor. He can post up. He improved physically from his sophomore. Again, just another highlight of him running the floor. He improved from his freshman to his sophomore year physically. He got a lot bigger, which shows that to me, that those types of small things are the things that differentiate the top tier guys. Is you look at a guy like Keegan Murray, and you look at his freshman to his sophomore year and you ask yourself, okay, did he do this? Did he go to the gym? Was he willing to put the dedication in to improving his body in order to improve his game at the collegiate level? Yes, yes, and yes. And that is important for an NBA franchise because you want to know that the guy that you are selecting with your top pick that he is willing to do whatever it takes to become the top level guy for your franchise. And Keegan Murray 100% is that guy. And again, we saw it when we look at, if we go back and we look at what he looked like in high school to his freshman year to his sophomore year, it's a total body transformation, total body transformation. And from all the reports, Keegan Murray is a straight gym rat. So that checks the box. Here's him hitting a 3-point shot. He can dribble, he can pass. I would say that the only negative that I would, and this isn't even a negative as much as it is just an observation. When he was at Iowa, sometimes there were times when he could have been more assertive. And if Keegan is going to be drafted super high, it's likely that the team who is taking him is going to expect him to be their top guy on their team for the future of their franchise. Now, there are some teams who are selecting high who are more looking for a complementary piece, not necessarily a guy who's going to fully lead their franchise and be the top guy. Okay. And if that's the case, I would say Keegan is probably better fit in that situation. Is Keegan capable of being a full-blown leader and being more assertive? Yes, I think so. I think he is. And although he could have been more assertive at times as an Iowa Hawkeye, it's not as though there were any ever moments where it's like, come on, Keegan, get in the game, we need you to be more aggressive. That was never the case. He always played hard. He always got his shots up. And I think that was more of a result of the Iowa offense rather than it was a result of Keegan. Iowa's offense is very free flowing. And it's very positionless. And I think at times it made it appear as though Keegan could be more assertive, but in reality, that was just Iowa's offense doing its thing. So I don't think that is a big thing to worry about. So I want to show this play here that shows Keegan's patience on the offensive end, that he is not just a one-dimensional player, that he really does have a tool bag. Here, he gets stopped and he's patient, he keeps working, and he gets that bucket. And that's huge for the NBA because we've seen so many guys that are one-dimensional, and it works in college because they are so good at that one thing in college. But then when they get to the NBA, which requires them to have a more well-rounded tool bag, and they don't have it, they are screwed. So let's watch that one more time here. Inside the edge. Boom. Nice. So very well-rounded tool bag. Listen, when it comes to Keegan Murray, I think that he is just a can't miss. And whoever takes him, they are going to get a guy who, at the very least, in my opinion, is going to be a star in the NBA. At the very least. I think on the low end, Keegan will be a starter, a guy that you can have as a piece in your starting rotation for the future. And at the high end, I think he is more than capable of becoming an NBA superstar. I really, really do. He has the athleticism, he has the skill, he has the work ethic, he has it all. Some of the highlights that when you watch Keegan Murray, you'll see some of the moves that he does are pure NBA moves. That again, he is not a one-dimensional type guy. He scores in a variety of ways, from the 3-point line, from mid-range, from the free throw. He does need to improve his free throw percentage, no doubt there, but he is very well-rounded. I think with Keegan Murray, you're going to be getting a guy who played at the highest level in college basketball in the Big Ten. I mean, the top conferences are definitely the high major conferences, but I would say that the top conference over the past 5 years, definitely this past year, would be the Big 12 and the Big 10. The ACC is good. SEC is getting better, but the top two would be the Big 12 and the Big 10. And Keegan Murray was in that conference, and he was the best player in that conference. He was the best player in that conference. And one thing that you know with Big 10 players is that they can play physically, that is not something that you will have to worry about. So again, just a very well-rounded player. He can defend, he can guard positions at a high level, 2, 3, and 4, maybe even 5. I wouldn't say 1 at the NBA level, as the quickness is just at such a high level that it's very hard to ask a small forward to do that, but he is certainly capable of doing it in general. Again, maybe not at a high level, but doing it in general. So if you draft Keegan Murray, you're going to get a guy who will immediately help your defense out. And then offensively, you're going to get a guy who you don't have to change much on your offensive system because he can go and get buckets in a very natural, free-flowing way. Love his jumper. Think it can improve. He can handle the rock. I think he can improve his passing. That is definitely one area he can improve, is his passing. Unfortunately, that's one thing that doesn't seem to have translated a ton from his guard days, him being a guard. But I would say that, number one, he probably won't be asked to do that a whole lot in the NBA. But two, I don't think he has a bad understanding of the floor and finding guys and things like that. He certainly is a selfless basketball player. So you don't have to worry about it in that way. It's just in general, perhaps he can improve his assist making ability slightly. But the post game, the 3-point game, all of it is all there. My comps that I would have for Keegan Murray would probably be, I like the Siakam, Pascal Siakam. I like that comp. I would compare Keegan Murray to LeBron James in that they're both highly athletic. They're both long for their 6'8" frame. Keegan Murray can handle the rock. It was the same thing with LeBron James. They both run the floor very, very well. I would say Keegan Murray is a better shooter, better free throw shooter, and better shooter in general. And I would say LeBron James was probably a little bit bigger physically and a little bit further along in his game all around. At the same point in time in their careers, or at the same age of their careers. So I would compare Keegan to LeBron James in certain regards. One comp that I like a lot, especially considering the Sacramento Kings are considering, they're definitely considering, but I have seen the Sacramento Kings linked to Keegan Murray, and that's who they will be drafting. The comp there is, I don't know if he's still on the Sacramento Kings. I'll have to look, is Harrison Barnes. I think Harrison Barnes is a great comp for Keegan Murray. So it looks as though Harrison Barnes is still on the Sacramento Kings. They're both 6'8". They're both very fundamentally sound basketball players, both very, strong ball handlers, good guys, intelligent guys. Overall, I think Harrison Barnes is probably the best comp for Keegan Murray. I would say that I think Keegan Murray has a higher ceiling and definitely was more dominant in college than Harrison was. Harrison had a good season, but he didn't have a season like Keegan Murray did. Keegan Murray averaging 23.5 points a game is so dominant. But let's be honest here, folks. Would it be a bust if Keegan Murray had the type of season that Harrison Barnes did? I would say not. I mean, Harrison Barnes went 7th overall, which is just about where Keegan is being considered to be drafted. I think you could make a case for him going number 1, 2, 3, 4, anywhere. And I wouldn't have a problem with it. But let's look at Harrison Barnes' stats here. I mean, look at this, guys. Averaging 9, 9, 10, 11, 19, 18, 17, 14, 14, 16, 16, 14. I mean, that is a very solid NBA career. Now, I think Keegan is capable of being at the very least, a 20-point a night scorer. And so I will say that. But again, if this is the low end of Keegan Murray, I think that would be just fine. And the last thing that I want to say with Keegan Murray is if you draft him, you're going to get a guy who can immediately help your ball club. You're not going to have to sit him in the developmental league and wait for him and wait and wait and wait. He will be ready to go from day one. And just my gut level take here. I think, I'm not saying that I think he should be the number one pick, but what I am saying is that he is very talented. He's a very good kid with a good heart, with a good family. He's athletic. I mean, he checks all the boxes. That's what I'm saying, is he checks all the boxes. The only box that he does not check is the age box. That's it. And, as I already said, to me, that's not a big deal because he still has a lot of room to grow developmentally. Did you guys just see that board? Let's look at that board. I forgot to mention that. That's also another thing that Keegan Murray is maybe doesn't get enough credit for, is how good at rebounding he is. I mean, again, he just checks every box. He really does. Some more than others, but there really is not an area of his game that you go, ooh, that's not going to work in the NBA. So, I am very high on Keegan Murray. I wish him the best, and I think whoever drafts him is going to get a franchise player who will be with them for years and years. And I think it will go just fine. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section of Keegan Murray, especially you NBA fans, the guys who, the teams who are considering drafting him. Let me know what you guys think. I am very, very curious about that. I don't know where Keegan is going to go. I've seen, sixth, I've seen fourth. I've seen him going to Sacramento. I don't really know. And to be totally frank, it doesn't matter to me. I just want him to go to a franchise that can support him in his ascent to becoming the best basketball player he can become. I've seen Detroit, which would hook him back up with fellow former Hawkeye Luka Garza. So we shall see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because, well, subscribing makes you feel good. At the very least, like, comment, share. You know the drill. I will see you guys next time. DBAP, don't be a pussy with facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. See you guys next time. Love y'all. Go Hawks. Bye.